Hey, Peter.
Hey.
What is the most revolutionary trio of, say, the last 25 years? Jazz piano trio.
Jazz piano trio.
Very specific.
Well, to me, sue me, but I love the Thelonious Monk trio. I thought it was a great trio. My math is a little off.
Yeah, did you fail out of math or something?
Well, don't pin me down.
It's more recent than that, and it's going to be
revolutionary.
It's probably a little controversial.
So the Paul Revere trio, I never heard them live.
Okay. Well,
but they were very involved with the Revolutionary War.
An interesting answer. Try again, bud.
Revolution. Prince played in the trio format.
Say what you see.
Prince and the Revolution.
Yep, Prince and the Revolution. Great band.
1999. Is that? Yeah, that's within 25 years.
Not what we're talking about here. That's not how that works either.
Brad Mehldau trio. What about them? I just heard them.
Great trio, but we're thinking of something a little bit more out of nowhere.
What?
I'm Adam Manis.
And I'm Peter Martin.
And you're listening to the You'll Hear podcast.
Music advice coming at you.
Coming at you today, sponsored by Open Studio. Go to openstudiojazz.com for all your jazz lesson needs.
That's weird.
That is a little weird. Oh, Peter, so...
For those of you out there just listening or just watching, you might be like, wow, that's weird. I can only tell you that in the studio here, it's even weirder.
You know what? I gotta warm up the old pipes.
That's right.
You know what I mean? We're about to podcast here all day long, so I need to get my sibilance going. I need to get my resonance happening. I'm gonna
and in between we take a break.
My core.
Can you help me with my tax return, sir?
Do I look? Yeah, I do look like your accountant a little bit. It's the cardigan.
I look like your shady client.
It's true. It's like we met in the pod suite just to do your taxes. I would be so terrible at doing your taxes, by the way.
you have the look, but not the skills.
I do not have the skills. Yeah. But
it's good to be back here, man. This is fun. We got some cool stuff that we're listening to.
Slap at a table.
I'm excited. We both heard some good. We do a quick recap of the music, or are we doing that on another episode that we heard?
Absolutely.
Last week?
Yeah, we heard
because
some good music.
Speaking of trios, well, this might be a little bit topical to what we're actually covering today, I believe.
Sure.
First of all, there's something different. We're not even going to talk about it. I want to see some OG viewers on. If you're not on YouTube, this would be a good time to jump over there.
Spot the difference.
Can you spot the difference of things that have been happening that are different from our set?
In the main picture.
Not in that picture.
The main shot here, Caleb. Like yes.
But don't give him too much. Don't give him too much.
No, there's something different. Can you see what it is?
Don't confuse him though. Anyway, leave in the comments if you see something different. So we both got a chance to hear separately some very high level piano trios. Was it last week, right?
Yeah.
Live. And in person.
That's right.
So I'll start it out by saying I heard the Brad Mehldau trio. Ever heard of him? Yeah. Jeff Ballard on drums. Larry Grenadier, or as he sometimes is referred, Larry Grenadier.
Friend of the show, Brad Mehldau.
Brad Mehldau, friend of the show, is known for leaving the longest comment in word count ever on the You'll Hear It
so much,
YouTube.
Man. It's like 16-year-old Adam.
Do you read it every morning?
His fantasy came true. Brad Mehldau posted a long comment. It was great.
And I was able to confirm with him after the show when we had a brief chat and hang, which was delightful, that was in fact his comment. Because I was like, yo, Brad, we were a little...
Wasn't it like Brad Mehldau 1537
Yeah, I was like,
something?
your username is super sketchy looking. And he was like looking at me funny, like, what do you mean? It said Brad Mehldau. I was like, yeah. And then like 7 numbers after it.
Yeah.
But yes, he said he in fact did. He said he enjoyed he sent his regards. And he to you and to all the listeners, and said he's a fan of the pod, enjoyed the episode. That's always like my worst fear is when we're talking about an artist that's obviously alive and might be. I'm almost wish they wouldn't be listening or watching because I want to be free with what I'm saying. Not that I'm going to be complimentary or derogatory or whatever. It's just I know I'm going to screw something up.
If you know Brad's watching, you're not going to like either go in too hard or go in too light. Yeah.
I mean, I think we're pretty free and off the cuff, but we're not always 100% accurate. This is not the New York Times reporting on current events. You know, this is a couple guys talking, just like our name used to say.
Just a couple of guys, just a couple of dudes talking
just
music.
Sort of hanging out, talking music. But anyway, no, it was cool. But anyway, hearing them live
at the beautiful Sheldon
Concert Hall, beautiful Steinway, the trio, they were just firing on all cylinders. It was a really fun, intimate, swinging, pensive, big, like dynamic range, emotional range, musical range. Really was a fun evening. Was a super uplifting.
So bummed I couldn't.
And he
go,
played
man.
for like 75, 80 minutes straight, no intermission.
Ah.
I love that. It's just great trajectory, great set list, you know,
Yeah.
beautiful intros, just really clean endings, some great standards. And yeah, it was fun.
That's
Larry
great.
Grenadier. I mean, everybody sounded great. Larry played some fantastic solos, and Jorge. I'm not Jorge. Jorge was good too, though. But this was Jeff Ballard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, at the same time that concert was happening, just across the street, actually, at Jazz St. Louis, another great jazz piano trio, the Bill Charlap Trio, was playing at Jazz St. Louis all week, Wednesday through Sunday.
Yes.
And from what I could see from photos, it looked like it was pretty packed in there every single set that they were
folks
playing.
like him here in St. Louis, and it was very well attended. I can attest to that.
Well, and I got to see him on Thursday night, that Thursday evening, and I can say that, first of all, there were more, I've never seen that many pianists in one room.
Of course.
In a while. All the piano nerds were out to see Bill Charlap, and a lot of drum nerds, by the way, to see Kenny Washington. And man, I gotta say, it's the impetus for this episode today, and this might be controversial, but listening to Bill Charlap and seeing him live and hearing that trio, you know, I realize that the older I get and the more experienced I get with listening, the more I appreciate players like Bill Charlap and what he's able to do within the framework that he and this trio have set up. It really is something very, very special, and he's a very special player.
Oh.
And I mean, I was blown away by the entire approach. His touch is world-class, like a number one world-class touch on the piano.
Yeah.
His language is amazing. He's like an encyclopedia for these tunes, for the stories behind them, for the composers. And then there's the rhythm section of Peter Washington on bass and Kenny Washington on drums. They are doing things that I think to maybe your average listener are like, oh, that sounds nice. And that looks like very simple things to do. And they are, as we know, very much not. Like if you watch Kenny Washington play drums and play brushes, right? It looks so effortless and easy.
Yeah.
And sounds so simple. But we all know that to sound simple and good is a monumental feat. Yeah. It's actually one of the hardest things to do. And, you know, I know we've had Gregory Hutchinson on the show before, and he talks about Kenny Washington all the time.
Yeah.
And it was a huge influence on Hutch and several other drummers.
Well, let me just add in. I remember, you know, Hutch has a thing where like Hutch is a master of the brushes. Everybody knows that and beyond. But especially with brushes, I've noticed whenever he teaches something or explains something in his courses, he always mentions Kenny Washington. Like to the point I'm like, dude, you don't have to. And he's just like, no, I got this from him. We all got this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, but Kenny got it from. He's like, yeah, but he was the connector. He was the one, and I mean, of course, Greg studied with him, and you know, was very close with him and coming up in New York and stuff. But yeah, he's a master of it.
What I realized seeing them live, and I've seen them live several times over the years, but I was just reminded that this framework that they've built with these, you know, jazz standards. They played some Duke Ellington and Billy Strayhorn, and they played some other jazz standards, and they played some great American songbook standards.
Yeah.
And the framework that they've built their career, 26 years together now as a trio since their first recording, 12 trio records that I could count, at least 12.
Yeah.
And they're doing it all in this framework. It's all very swinging, and seemingly at first glance or first listen, it's all very straight down the middle, you know, and you think, oh, okay, this is just like straight ahead. And then I was listening last week, I was realizing that it's not so straightforward as you might think. Like they are creating some very fresh sounds within this framework. And I was lit up after this concert because I think it's easy to feel like there's something is revolutionary or new. Yeah, buddy. Yeah. No, to feel like when something is, the aesthetic is completely, you know, trying for something weird or outside of the norm, it's easy to be like, oh, well, that's new and different. But when something is using the framework of a structure that is known, it's easier to overlook it as fresh and new. And this felt like fresh and new music from this incredible trio of masters.
Well, it's kind of like, is the framework really about them being non-controversial in terms of their approach as a trio? When you are able to do that at such a high level, that becomes its own revolution.
Yeah.
Right.
The devotion to the framework that they've set up.
Right. When you say we're going to do this, and we're seemingly not going to be doing anything.
There's no
that
winking.
Anybody else hasn't thought of.
Yeah.
we're not going to be putting everything into 7 or 11 or playing it backwards or
But at this point, is that so revolutionary?
Exactly.
You know?
That's what I'm saying. Like, they've been around, and they are the ones who haven't changed. So all the other stuff has maybe changed. Obviously, one could say they've gotten better over those 26 years. But they weren't bad at the beginning.
But this is also just not your average piano trio just playing standards either. These are artists playing simple things that are not even that simple all the time.
Yeah.
But very foundational
making
things.
really hard things that sound simple.
It reminds me of watching Chick Corea play, right? Yeah. Where you're like, okay, this seems like I could just walk up there and do that, but I know that that's not the case.
Right.
But he makes it seem effortless. Bill Charlap makes this seem effortless. And I think experienced piano players, when you listen and hear what he does and then see how he's doing it, you're like, what's going on? Like, how is this possible? So we're going to listen to a little bit and watch a little bit of this video from Blue Note Records.
I mean, a relentless devotion to excellence is revolutionary.
100%.
Like, we think it's not, because it's like, oh, that's easy. Or maybe not easy, but it's like, oh, a lot of good people can do
No. It takes, like I said, it takes devotion. This is a devotional practice they've made to their music, and it pays off. So this is from their latest record. And this is on a Blue Note YouTube channel. This is Out of Nowhere, and I think this is in the Steinway Gallery in New York, I believe. All those little things. All those. Did you hear that?
Ha.
Everything that's happening here. Notice the volume that Bill's playing at here.
Quiet.
These accents way down low.
But even within those lines, there's little accents that are coming through. They mean so much more.
Left hand underneath it, these big tens. Okay. It's like a Rolls Royce.
Yeah.
It's like the details are so exquisite.
Right.
You know, everything is of the highest quality. Man.
Your podcasting microphone on the bass. I like it. Ted Washington's hilarious. It's like controlled personality from all of them.
There's
Like
so,
it comes together for this.
There's so much amazing music happening here in this little framework that they've masterfully. All those details.
No crazy fancy arrangement, but just the right pieces.
No, you know what? It's not. It's
If
not
you've
like
got it. You don't have to flaunt it.
it's not trying to be super cool. It's not trying to be too
Wait,
hip.
you do your super cool voice.
Super cool.
Hey man, I'm super cool.
Hey man,
I'm Prison
look at
Mike.
me. Everything is in 7. No, I'm just
I've
kidding.
been up in the big house.
Peter, you know, I'm no traditionalist by any stretch of the imagination. Like one of my favorite musicians.
Judging from your attire, you're very traditional, sir.
This guy, he can't help but he can't lay off the cardigan. He just can't lay off the cardigan.
Sue me. I love cardigans.
No, I'm no traditionalist by any stretch of the imagination.
Right.
You know, I love Eric Dolphy. Sue me. I love Ornette Coleman. Sue me. I love all of that.
Yeah.
You know, avant-garde music, and yet I find that for some reason this trio has this juice inside of this traditional structure that I just can't get enough of.
But it's the authenticity with which they approach it, which with their skills are so well suited, with which they're willing to kind of submit to the music and to the trio format, all three of them, that makes it work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like that, and I think that's why our, thesis of this being revolutionary, actually, it's almost like the anti-revolutionary.
It is the anti-revolutionary,
yeah. But it's true. It's like the Eric Dolphy you're talking about. But actually, you'd be a good example because you've had some great trios that have gone in different directions, not necessarily this direction, that are also very authentic. Like there's that authentic approach to how you're gonna play a tune like this, which can go in. Like we're not saying there's anything wrong with putting this in 7 or
reharmonizing
deconstructing it
yeah.
or reharmonizing
Yeah.
it. But it's for the personnel, the situation. Like we talk about even how they're all dressed. Some groups that would be dressed in fine Italian suits like they are, it wouldn't match the music. As you said, they're like a Rolls Royce. So like they got the clothes, they got the Steinway, they got
it is
the look, the sound. It's all authentic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It all fits together. It's a great thing. Do you want to listen to this all the time? Yes, actually, I probably would.
Mean, it is like.
I mean, would you want to go off road with the Rolls Royce? Probably not, but it'd still be kind of nice.
No. There's nothing like punk rock about it or subversive about it, but there is a lot of freedom in this devotion to the form. And I think, the deeper I get into music and understanding what goes on to be able to do that, the more you realize like that is decades of very devoted hard work that all three of them have put into this. And that doesn't happen just by like, let's go play some standards and wear suits and try to put this on as a mask, right?
No, but I do think that kind of authenticity, although it might get lost on the general public as it should. Like if somebody came in there to hear them as you did at the Jazz at the Bistro Club, that's just a listener like, I want to go to a jazz club. Like they're going to be like, wow, this was amazing. They're not going to understand all the reasons why what we're talking about, but it's just as an authentic experience. They're listening, right?
You've never seen like 250 people love Straight Ahead Jazz Trio as much as I did that Thursday evening.
And there's the different
amazing
levels. Like, so if you're a pianist and you understand what we do and what probably most of our listeners do, even if you're not a pianist, if you're just a musician and you're paying attention to the details, like it really can go next level. I mean, it's like looking at this great pitcher, major league pitcher. It's like if you understand the intricacies of everything they're doing, even if you don't understand it, you just see them striking everybody out. It's thrilling, right? But then the deeper levels you go, it doesn't become more mundane. It's the opposite. It becomes even more revolutionary, more sophisticated. Your average listener wouldn't think it's revolutionary. And in fact, if they're lucky enough to hear something on this level, like maybe in New York, there was a time, I don't even think even now, there's a time when you can hear something on this unless you're hearing them. I mean, there's other good trios, but I mean, like, if you're hearing something at this level all the time, it's kind of like if you live in Vienna.
It feels like a throwback to like 80s New York or something.
Right. Like the Village Gate where it'd be like, Mulgrew Miller, Charlap, that was even before Charlap, just great trio. Kenny Barron, Donald Brown, But I mean, I think that it's like if you lived in Vienna and you love classical music. And
Donald Brown, that's someone we should talk about
absolutely,
more on the podcast,
absolutely.
sure.
Silk. But I mean, it's like you live in Vienna, you only go to the Music Verein, and hear the Vienna Philharmonic every week. But they're playing different music, different repertoire, maybe different conductors. But like the level of playing and sophistication and like what they're wearing, what you're seeing, what the audience, like the sound is, it's like that's the bar then.
Yeah.
It's kind of like this. If you're hearing this trio play on those instruments at Steinway Hall or at a great club with a great piano and great, Kenny Washington, Peter Washington, Bill Charlap. Like, yeah, you could hear them anywhere, but I'm talking about like you're hearing them. They're like like everything's coming together. Like that becomes normalized in the best possible way. You know, it's like a kid that grows up in a happy family that's being supported or whatever. That's all that they know. It's a shock to your system. It becomes anti-revolutionary when you go out and hear somebody trying to fake it or like, I'm going to wear a suit and try to be cool and do this and play some standards. And you're like, wait, they're not doing anything that different than that, but it sounds like 80% worse for some reason.
Yeah.
That's the exciting thing to me about this.
Man, one great moment from this the concert that I saw just last week live here with the Bill Charlap Trio. I was sitting on either side of me were two pianists, Rocky Mantia on one side, St. Louis keys player, and then on the other side was young Daniel Herrera, who is a young jazz pianist, plays with the Kendrick Smith group here in St. Louis. And then Daniel was with a drummer, I believe his first name was Tony, but he's 15 years old. And I don't think I got his last name. Anyway, after the show, Sean and I are our friend of the show, Sean
You're
Weil.
calling everybody out. What if somebody was like, oh, I'm going to be at home on Thursday night. They just got blasted. They got put on blast.
No, I invited everybody to the show.
Okay.
No, Sean and I are hanging out after the show because I wanted to talk to Mr. Charlap and I wanted to invite him down to Open Studio. He's here all week. I never got to because
security.
Security. Bill was at a table with like a bunch of people and was sitting with them and they were laughing and talking and it seemed like a social thing and I didn't want to be like, hey, I didn't want to have to give him the whole spiel, right? So anyway, we're
Are you familiar with the #1 jazz podcast?
Yeah, I didn't want to go. I didn't want to do that. You ever heard of Kiefer? Because we've just so we were just hanging out waiting for him to kind of be done. We never actually talked to him because he was there for 45 minutes. But 45 minutes later, and the whole time that we were sitting there waiting for them, that young 15-year-old drummer Tony was sitting at a table with Kenny Washington, and you could tell Kenny was saying encouraging things, giving advice, talking drums, talking about what he should do. And I remember talking to Gregory Hutchinson about that part of Kenny Washington and sort of that passing down, right? That the music and what it means to be a musician, and to see it so genuinely happen in front of our eyes there to a kid who's, Kenny doesn't have to. He's Kenny Washington. He doesn't have to do that. And
but Kenny will do that.
45 minutes talking to this kid.
And look, this is another thing for all the kids out there, kids from all ages, like when you get an opportunity like that, sit down. First of all, Kenny Washington will, so I've seen him do that many times. And probably at this point, because younger musicians are shyer in a way than, not that we weren't shy in our own way, but if we wanted to learn to ask a question, that was the only place to do it. You couldn't DM someone.
I'll just go Google it later.
I can't and just like Kiefer said in his great interview with us last week, what did he say? A YouTube video can't talk back to you.
That's
it can't say something back. So yes, you can watch Kenny Washington, these wonderful examples. You can even see him talking about, explaining things, but there's nothing like sitting there with a legend. That'll change a young drummer's life.
I looked like Tony was getting a lot out of it too. Actually, I haven't heard him play. I just met him, but you ever meet someone and be like, you're going to be a good musician. I could just kind of get the vibe that you're serious about this.
Right. He had a suit on, right?
No, he did not, but he had the vibe of someone who was like, there's something in the eyes.
Right.
And so that was just really cool to see. So shout out to that trio. And I realized that
I agree. It's the most revolutionary trio because you know what it is. It's like no tattoos is the new tattoo.
No tattoo. Listen, no. Of course, there are trios who are doing things on the cutting edge of form. Right?
Any better than this? Name them.
No.
Name
but I'm
them.
just saying it's nice to appreciate the freedom in form and a trio that's devoted to a form so much that it starts to become something new. And I think that this trio is at as about a high level as you can get.
Absolutely. And I love, even you talk about, forget about the style or whatever of the trio. They set the bar in terms of musicianship. And not to say that there aren't other drummers and pianists and bass players as good maybe, but as a trio, the way that they play trio, it doesn't get any better than that. Like that, I will put a mark. So in other words, that sets the level for all of us in a really inspiring way. And it's like a constant reminder. It's like you come into the gym and you're like, there's somebody there that's already warming up first.
Yeah.
They might not always win or whatever, but they're in there not only putting in the work, but showing how it's done.
What's so inspiring is you don't have to do what they're doing to do it the way they're doing it.
Absolutely.
That's what this is I keep saying the word devotion because it's a devotional practice to the music that that they're on the path trying to learn, right?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it's almost a spiritual endeavor at this point where it's like you're committing yourself to this music for your life, and you can do it in your own way with the music that reaches you. It doesn't have to be out of nowhere and standards and things like that, but to do it in that way where you're like, I'm going to take this seriously and I'm going to learn about this and really go deep on this and commit to this is very inspiring.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This was great, man. Thanks for bringing this in and the stories and everything. Till next time.
You'll hear it.